Next up, we have Alex Scott on gang injunctions in Southern California.
Hi guys. So I want to preface by saying I'm a student of history, and when I came to SoCA, I did not want to study history. I wanted to study science because I wanted to study social problems and save the world from global warming. And but as I started taking history courses, I started understanding that all of these social issues that we're facing right now are part of a larger historical relationship of power. And I'm actually not going to talk too much about the specifics of my capstone and the tenets of my argument based in critical theory and Marxism and all these other complicated things that would probably bore most of you. But I wanted to create a project based in a historical narrative that affects a social issue going on right now that I think is very important, and I wanted to share what I know about it with you today. So before we talk about gang injunctions, what is a gang? Essentially, a gang is a group of people, generally young people, who share a common identity, they engage in criminal behavior, like selling drugs or violent crime against other gangs. They have common identifying symbols, wearing the same clothing, gang signs, tagging, and they associate themselves with a particular geographic area or a neighborhood or barrio or whatever you want to call it. Now, why is this important? Why do we care so much about gangs? Why do we see gangs in the media, in television, movies? Well, some estimates place gangs as being responsible for 10% of all crime in the U.S., and in gang-impacted neighborhoods, gang crimes can represent a third of all violent crime, meaning any sort of fighting, rape, or murder. So gang injunction, what is a gang injunction? Because gangs are such a prevalent problem throughout the United States and exist virtually in every single large metropolitan area, law enforcement have been trying to devise ways of combating gangs and eliminating them with the idea of protecting society and protecting people from violence and their crimes. So gang injunction is fastly becoming the fastest way law enforcement see in getting rid of these gangs and in combating crime. And basically, a gang injunction is a lawsuit filed by a district attorney in a civic court. It alleges that a gang have occupied a specific geographic area in a manner that constitutes a public nuisance. It establishes an area called a safety zone, where they essentially take a map of a neighborhood and draw a box around it and label that as a safety zone, and that's where they think the gang is, and that's like the area that they occupy. And then within that safety zone, they prohibit the alleged gang members from engaging in a variety of activities, including prohibition from associating in public with each other, and they're put under curfews. Often they're also prohibited from buying alcohol or firearms. These are basic civil rights granted to us in the Constitution. Here's a picture of the recently created Townsend gang injunction in the city of Santa Ana, which is 15 minutes away from us. So gang injunctions are based in this idea of social disorganization theory, which predicts sanctions against the gang members will deter them from committing crimes. It maintains that gang injunctions cause these gang members to believe they're being closely watched by police, and it weakens gang identity because they're not in public with each other and they're just afraid to associate with the gang or be seen in public. So is it effective? That's what people claim to be the most important thing when studying these gang injunctions. Well, law enforcement claims they're very effective. However, studies researching the effectiveness of gang injunctions are based in an analysis of reported crime in an area prior to and following its implementation. So how does that work? What does that mean? Well, on average, crime rates drop between 5 to 15% in the first year, but not including violent crimes, not including the most scary or dangerous crimes that police are actually trying to eliminate. And there's a variety of potential confounding factors that may affect the statistical correlations between trends in crime and the creation of a gang injunction, i.e. it may affect the rate at which people report crimes to law enforcement, which is something I'll go into in a minute. But also, in the state of California, crime rates have been drastically dropping for the past 20 years. So the idea of a drop in crime rate is kind of problematic when it's going on all over the state, in Aliso Viejo as well, Laguna Beach, really nice, not inner city urban areas. And also, there are gang injunctions that have been in place for 20 years, and gangs still affect these communities. So it's kind of obvious that the gangs aren't going away, and the crime rates are dropping, but it's kind of a problematic idea to think that these gang injunctions are doing. Additional complications. District attorney and police do not have to prove in court that anybody put on a gang injunction list is a gang member. Essentially, the police show up at your house, they knock on your door, and they serve you with the injunction. And these lists are compiled based on evidence from police who go into neighborhoods and see suspicious youth and compile lists of these kids and then basically serve them with the injunction. And then they can be placed under the injunction for a variety of reasons, ranging from the people they associate with to their choice of dress. It's a pretty common occurrence for people who are just friends with gang members to be put under injunctions. Civil court does not provide defendants pro bono legal assistance. That's only provided in criminal court, but because it's a civil lawsuit, you're not provided any legal assistance. Individuals must request to petition their inclusion. They don't even get the opportunity to challenge the injunction unless they request it, and that request is granted by the judge. And then they disproportionately target Black and Latino communities experiencing high levels of poverty. And most problematically, I think, they posit fear tactics, incarceration, and increased police presence as a solution to historic socioeconomic marginalization. So before I talk about these images, basically, in my view, gang injunctions target the most vulnerable communities in our society. Black and Latino inner city communities suffering from poverty that have historically been subject to economic marginalization and segregation, as well as police violence. So here I have 3 pictures of the city of Los Angeles. Did I dim the lights? I'm not good with technology. Just slightly. Woo, decade! That's good. Oh, that's perfect. So on the left, we have a map that was produced 2 years ago by a large group of researchers based out of MIT, and that is a map of the racial demographics of Los Angeles. And you can't tell too well the colors, but basically, in the yellow and green areas to more center and southern areas of Los Angeles, those are Black and Latino neighborhoods. The reason why those neighborhoods are there is because they've been historically placed there by de facto segregation and redlining in the housing policy, where basically Latinos and Blacks weren't allowed to occupy the west side. In the middle, we have a map that was produced this year by the LA Times that shows the quality of life distribution in the city. The lighter colored areas are where the lowest quality of life is. You compare that with a map on the left, those are the Black and Latino neighborhoods. And then on the right, we have, in color, all of the gang injunctions located in Los Angeles. As you can see, there's a direct correlation between all 3 of them, where all the gang injunctions are placed in the Black and Latino neighborhoods suffering from the worst socioeconomic marginalization. Interestingly, if you look in the center of the gang injunctions in Los Angeles, you can see the USC campus, which is completely bordered by gang injunctions. So, I see this as a really important issue because it's a part of a larger historical context in which these are the communities that are most vulnerable in our society and that have been denied basic services by the federal government. Gang injunctions cost millions of dollars to enforce. They cost millions of dollars for the court fees and for the filing of the injunction. And these are communities that are suffering from poverty. These people aren't deviants. What produces gangs? Poverty. Gangs are a culturally and organic response to disproportionate poverty, and it's a means to make money. So right now, going on, there's a large social movement throughout California that I'm involved in, and this is what most of my capstone is actually about, are the body of grassroots organizations fighting these gang injunctions. We originally it started with Tucanos Unidos in Orange County, just fighting one injunction, and they started to realize that there were all these other organizations throughout the state that are starting to fight these injunctions. And ideally, we would like to wage a larger lawsuit to try to make them completely unconstitutional because they violate basic constitutional rights. But right now, what I've been doing is collecting data and gathering data on every single gang injunction in the state of California. There's 132 of them, and they're all located in impoverished Latino and Black communities. Not one is located in a white community or attempting to target a white gang, which do exist. So in summation, I don't really know how to conclude other than history is important. History is important, and understanding current social problems comes through understanding history and the history of marginalization and racism in the case of gang injunctions. That's my presentation.